Blacksburg, and why not? Few programs have tasted the success the Hokies have had, celebrating championships. First the Big East and now the ACC. But this season, Coach Frank Beamer stands in the middle of a quarterback quandary. Sean Glennon began the season believing he was the #1 quarterback, but Tyrod Taylor redshirted for the season. But 2 weeks later, Taylor has not only shucked the red shirt, he has taken Glennon's job. Was this the right decision? We'll get a clearer picture when Georgia Tech calls on the Hokies right now. From Lane Stadium and Worship Field on the campus of Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Best Buy brings us this ACC matchup between the Yellow Jackets of Georgia Tech, they're 2-0, and the 1-1 Virginia Tech Hokies playing their first ACC game of the season. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Blacksburg. Along with David Norrie, I'm Dave Lamont. Todd Harris is on the field, and he'll be talking to Frank Beamer shortly. And pretty obvious, David, #1 question, why? And the decision made to put Tyrod Taylor in as the starting quarterback over Sean Glennon. Why do you think it was done?
Well, if you look at Sean Glennon's performance against East Carolina in the opener, the upset loss, I thought he played very well. In fact, I thought it was surprising that they pulled Tyrod Taylor's red shirt after the first game. But when you look at the decision a little bit more closely, you know, Sean Glennon had nice numbers, but this offense has been devoid of talent in the first 2 games. They lost their top 4 wide receivers from the team a year ago. They lost Brandon Orr, a great tailback in the offseason. And I think Tyrod Taylor is in the lineup as a starter. He's no longer redshirting because he gives Virginia Tech their best playmaker on offense. He's got a very strong arm, but also I think when you talk to Frank Beamer, he says he's as good a runner at the quarterback position as we've ever had. They had a guy playing that position by the name of Michael Vick, so that's pretty tall praise.
We're going to see a running quarterback today in Josh Nesbitt for Georgia Tech. What about Paul Johnson and this run-oriented offense succeeding in the ACC, where he has succeeded at Navy and Georgia Southern?
Well, I don't think they can be quite as run-heavy as they were at Navy. I think they're going to have to throw the ball to attract the kind of athletes that are going to compete week in and week out in the ACC. Paul Johnson's success on offense is really going to dictate whether they can bring the kids to Atlanta.
For the first time since 1994, Virginia Tech is coming out in orange jerseys. It didn't work well the last time they did it. The orange effect in effect as the Hokies get ready to take on the Yellow Jackets and thrill this crowd in Blacksburg. Virginia Tech won the toss. They deferred, so Georgia Tech will get the football first. We get down to the field, and Todd Harris.
Coach Beamer, you decided to go with Tyrod Taylor over Sean Glennon. What was the thought process with that?
Well, we feel like Tyrod can do some things that can help our offense, and going to give him a shot and see what happens.
Is there a case scenario in which we will see Sean get in later in this game?
Well, we got going with Tyrod right now. We'll see what happens.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you. Dave?
And that's an interesting point, David, because we talked about this with the coaching staff and wondered, is this a 2-quarterback system? Because we've seen dozens of those. Doesn't sound like it.
Well, if you remember last year down the stretch as the Hokies made their move towards an ACC championship, it was a split-time rotation between Taylor and Glennon, and it worked very well. But I think Frank Beamer ultimately wants to have a single quarterback system. And the feeling we got from the coaching staff yesterday, Dave, was that this was going to be a single quarterback system. I think the only way we'll see Sean Glennon is if the score gets out of hand or if Tyrod Taylor is playing below par.
We'll get our first look today at the Georgia Tech special teams and Jonathan Dwyer, and you're going to hear that name all afternoon long. Tyler Melton is also back there with him. But Jonathan Dwyer runs back, kicks for this team, and he is the lead back or the B back in this offense of Paul Johnson's that worked so well at Georgia Southern and then so well at the Naval Academy, where he took Navy to heights that many thought no service academy could ever reach with this offense. David, what should people look for? We talk about today, instead of tailbacks and fullbacks, we're going to be talking about A backs and B backs. What should the folks at home look for with this Tech offense?
Well, this Tech offense starts with the core and a tailback behind him, the B back, Jonathan Dwyer. And he's not going to be the traditional 8 or 9 yards of a tailback. He'll be 3 to 4 yards depth, and then you have a couple wing backs or slot backs. They'll come in motion, and they will oftentimes be the pitch man in the triple option.
Dwyer is number 21. And he'll get the chance if this goes in bounds. Boy, that was hooked into the crowd. I don't think you get to see that very often, so it'll be great field position for Paul Johnson's Yellow Jackets and their quarterback, Josh Nesbitt.
And the premium for a kicker keeping the ball in bounds was stepped up in the offseason.
Kick out of bounds by the kicking team. The receiving team will take the ball on the 40-yard line. First down.
A year ago, Georgia Tech would have taken over at the 35, and with the rule change, they start at the 40. Great field position for the Yellow Jackets.
So it's the sophomore from Greensboro, Georgia, Josh Nesbitt. He's thrown only 25 passes this season, completed 11 of them, but he's also a good runner. And you see the lineup at the top of your screen, and there's Jonathan Dwyer, number 21, directly behind Nesbitt. That is Cox in motion, and the first play under pressure, and Nesbitt's got some room to run if he wants it. Boy, I tell you what, Virginia Tech defenders got around there. Cordero Thompson and looks like Cody Grimm were around there to cut that off. For the moment, when he turned and went the other way, David, I thought Nesbitt had all day to run.
Looked like Nesbitt was going to get hit in the back by Cody Grimm. Watch the top of the screen. Grimm comes unmolested, and Nesbitt, so dynamic with his legs, just spins out of it, turns a negative play into a positive gain.
Brett Warren also in there to help out along with Thompson to keep that from being any more than a 3-yard gain. This is one of the plays they like to go with the pitch, and Virginia Tech studied its film. No gain on the play, and paying the price was Greg Smith, a junior from Atlanta, and there is Cody Grimm again making noise for the Hokie defense.
One of the misnomers about this offense, you're not going to see the triple option quite as much as we saw with the Navy offense under Paul Johnson. You have tosses, you have different kinds of option that don't involve a triple option type scheme. And Virginia Tech defensively very aggressive to open this football game.
You saw the name Victor Macho Harris at the top of your screen, a key player for the Hokies on defense. He's number 1 in the orange. And flag is down. Play clock may have run out.
Prior to the snap. False start. Offense, number 55. 5-yard penalty. Remains third down.
A couple of things we ought to mention about the Georgia Tech offense today. One of them is that Demarius Thomas, a starting wide receiver, a redshirt sophomore who had 5 catches, is not even here, suffering the effects of a concussion, Davis. They decided not even to bring him on the trip. That puts R.B. Clyburn, a redshirt freshman who has never played, into this atmosphere. Virginia Tech.
That's a big problem for the Yellow Jackets because Thomas is really their number 1 threat outside in the passing game.
And it's Nesbitt on the keeper, breaks a couple of tackles, a first down. And I tell you what, had he been able to get around Davon Morgan, he might have gone all the way with that. Gain of 18.
Josh Nesbitt, when you watch the tape from a week ago against Boston College, 2 things jumped out at me. First of all, he's a better passer than some people give him credit for, and he is very strong as a runner, able to make people miss and strong enough below the waist to run through tackles.
He already has 3 rushing touchdowns on the season. That play straight ahead is maybe the number 1 play you'll see as Jonathan Dwyer straight ahead for good yardage. Time to look at our impact players, brought to you by Best Buy. You've already seen what Josh Nesbitt can do with his legs. Got a good arm, too. Jonathan Dwyer leads this team in rushing. He and Nesbitt do the bulk of the carries. And on defense, watch how often number 93, Michael Johnson, will be double-teamed today. That Georgia Tech defensive line is studly. 2nd and 2. And again, the base play with Dwyer very close to the first down. Nikos Brown, a junior from Brandywine, Maryland, in on the stop.
Well, obviously it's early, but Frank Beamer has to be somewhat concerned about the way that Georgia Tech is moving the ball on the ground. And you go back 2 weeks, I don't think Furman last week was a very good barometer of the Virginia Tech Hokie program, but you go back 2 weeks in the game against East Carolina, and the Pirates really controlled the ball on the ground in the second half against a Hokies defense that is traditionally so strong against the run.
They got it. Well, this was a mild upset. Virginia Tech came into that game ranked 17th when they lost to East Carolina.
Well, and what a string of momentum East Carolina is riding. And we see some of the Frank Beamer ball there, but Patrick Pinckney had an electrifying game. And, of course, the punt block late, the scoop, and the touchdown. Virginia Tech got a taste of their own medicine.
And lost that game 27-22. And that didn't look very pretty. The ball on the ground. This was a problem for Georgia Tech against Boston College last week, and they lose it. Nesbitt coughed it up, and the Hokies have it. Looked like Macho Harris fell on the football for the home team.
The offense that Paul Johnson brings over for Navy is a very productive offense. A lot of yards on the ground. But the biggest knock on this offensive scheme is it is a high-risk running attack. Coming into this game, 8 times the Yellow Jackets have put it on the ground. They've lost 5 fumbles. That was number 6.
And it's only the 3rd game of the year. Taylor, and he'll go to the air right away. First pass we've seen today, but well covered. Nothing doing there. And he threw that to Macho Harris. We were told to be on the lookout for the defensive back in the offensive formation, and they go to him on the first play. But Jahi Ward-Daniels right there, the leader of that secondary, and one of the team captains, to make that actually a loss of about a half a yard. There's Ward-Daniels, but Tyrod Taylor, the sophomore from Hampton, ran for 112 yards last week in that win over Furman. Didn't look like he was even going to play at the start of the season. He had a red shirt on and was taken off after that loss in Charlotte. And they go this time to the tight end. That'll move the chains a little bit to the 39-yard line. Kyle Jackson in on the stop. Gain of 8. Well, Tyrod Taylor gets an opportunity. By the way, he's not like some new name either. People may not understand it. He's 5-0 as a starter.
Well, he had 5 starts early on for Virginia Tech last year as a true freshman. And, of course, he rotated after an injury, rotated with Glennon down the stretch. This is not his first taste of big-time action.
And the Georgia Tech defensive front, we told you that was a good unit. Kenny Lewis Jr. swamped for a loss by the Tech defense. Kyle Jackson in there again. That's a loss of 5. Jackson, a redshirt freshman linebacker. Tech is shy 2 regular linebackers, too. Both Anthony Barnes and Brad Jefferson not playing.
This is not only one of the better defensive fronts in the ACC. I think it's one of the premier units up front in the country. And they have some depth behind the front line guys. Of course, Johnson, you look at his frame. I mean, he has a frame only Mel Kiper Jr. could love.
Well, apparently you cannot escape the name Bowden in the ACC. Brent Bowden is the punter for Virginia Tech. Of course, he had 1 block, as we showed you a little while ago. Fair catch called for by Melton. And boy, that was an athletic play by Tyler Melton to save that football. Georgia Tech's fumble didn't hurt him. We'll see if their offense can recover. There's your score in time. Virginia Tech 3 and out as Tyrod Taylor and Sean Glennon. Glennon's got to be a team guy, even though he has been demoted, and hang in there and help Taylor as much as he can. 33 yards rushing already for Georgia Tech on their first drive, but they fumbled it to Virginia Tech. And again, this is Nesbitt. Good job that time with a ball fake to Dwyer straight ahead. And David, let's take a look at the Best Buy playbook and how this offense works and has worked for Coach Paul Johnson.
Well, this isn't just a grind it out, move the chains type of scheme. You look at the triple option attack at Navy. The offense under Paul Johnson averaged about 2 minutes on each touchdown drive, and then there's some double option. There's no threat in the line of scrimmage on this speed option to Jonathan Dwyer to the outside. And of course, that was a deciding score at Boston College last week.
Nesbitt has 29 yards already on the ground, but he'll pitch this one to Greg Smith, and it's like he has the first down to the 40-yard line. Tackle made by the free safety Cam Chandler, the junior from Norfolk, Virginia.
And when you have Jonathan Dwyer playing at the B-back, typically in this offense, he's working into the line of scrimmage on every play, and he's getting hit regardless of whether he gets the ball or not. I think he is talented enough, and he shows enough on the perimeter that they're going to have to get him outside quite a bit. Virginia Tech defensive coordinator Bud Foster talked about how talented he was on the outside.
Boy, Dwyer took a shot, but it's Nesbitt with the football, and he is really persistent, David. And the ball may be down again, and Lucas Cox, number 36 for Georgia Tech, has picked it up. But the officials are going to say that the play was dead, and Nesbitt will get 6 yards before Pernell Sturdivant, captain of the Virginia Tech defense, made the stop. But he is really strong. And by the way, these guys were not recruited by Paul Johnson. I remember last year the Georgia Tech people were telling us, hey, we love Jashard Choice, but watch for Jonathan Dwyer in 2008.
Well, and remember, the quarterback and the B-back get hit on every play, regardless of whether they have the ball or not. And when your two best offensive players are in those positions, durability for the entire season is going to be a huge key.
And it's Dwan Nesbitt again, and he is maybe about a half a yard shy, a gain of 3. And Nesbitt has been the primary focus of this rushing attack so far. Davon Morgan, a sophomore from Richmond, in on the stop. If you take a look at Paul Johnson, and there is Morgan. Paul Johnson, an obscene record, 109-37 as the head coach.
And of course, he had the success at Georgia Southern. Back at that time, it was Division I AA classification.
Nice.
But his program at Navy, 4-3 against the ACC.
This will be a first down for Georgia Tech as they get into Hokies territory. Sturdivant in again on the stop. Well, let's take a look at where is Paul Johnson from. Well, between 1997 and 2001, 2 Division I AA's, it was called then, national championships in Statesboro, 98 and 99. Now he goes to the Naval Academy. People say you can't win there consistently. Well, I have 5 straight bowl appearances. 109 and 39 in a dozen seasons of coaching. That's about 74%, by the way. And he won the Bobby Dodd National Coach of the Year title in 2004 when the Naval Academy went 10-2. Right now he has the football and control of this game, although there is no score.
You're watching ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Best Buy.
In his 22nd seasons at Virginia Tech, Frank Beamer, 168 victories. He's done about everything except a national championship, although they have been in the national title game. Virginia Tech called that timeout. They have 2 left in this half. First down and 10 for Georgia Tech. And Nesbitt makes the choice to keep it, and he's got room, but there is a flag down on the far side. So this great run by Nesbitt, about 34 yards, run out of bounds by Stephen Virgil, may come back. I would say based on that reaction from Paul Johnson, this will come back.
It's a shame for Georgia Tech because that was a brilliantly executed triple option play by Josh Nesbitt.
Offside. Defense number 59.
Oh.
Penalties decline. First down.
Yeah.
Well, look at the smile on Paul Johnson's face.
He went from cursing to offering the referee a donut.
I think Paul Johnson thought that the Yellow Jackets were going to get flagged. This is a triple option. The keep by Nesbitt on the read. Doesn't pitch the ball out, and you can see how dangerous he is as a runner from the quarterback position.
And no surprise, out of the 11 total plays, Those guys have 10 of the carries. Expect that kind of percentage all afternoon long. Inside the 20, Georgia Tech for the first time today. And this time they leave it with Dwyer up the middle, and he can get a whole lot there. Orion Martin, one of the defensive captains, in on the stop. He's a redshirt senior from Manassas, Virginia. There's defensive coordinator Bud Foster. And one of the things we asked him is, how many times have you said the word discipline to your defense today in trying to deal with this offense?
Well, and discipline is the key, because you've got to play very vanilla, and that means straightforward, standard. You have responsibilities with the dive man, with the quarterback and the pitch. You've got to stick with your responsibilities man-to-man defensively.
89 total yards for Georgia Tech, all on the ground, and 13 carries. Boy, for a second that hole was open, David, and I thought that Dwyer was going to be able to pop that through to the second level, but somebody got underneath him and tripped him up.
Well, and Bud Foster knows how dangerous Jonathan Dwyer can be. He said the two keys to this game were going to be not letting Jonathan Dwyer pop the big runs, both inside and out on the perimeter, and then keeping Josh Nesbitt contained, not allowing Nesbitt to get outside the pocket and make plays with his arm, or even more dangerously with the speed.
3rd and long. And good penetration by Virginia Tech that time. That play was spoiled from the very beginning. No chance as Brent Warren, the inside linebacker, was in on the stop along with a few of his buddies. And we'll take a look at Scott Blair. Looks like the field goal kicker for Georgia Tech.
Well, and this is the trap option. It's a who's who of option plays, not just a triple option. They'll give you a taste of speed option. And on that play, the trap option, in which Josh Nesbitt reverses out in a nice decision to keep the football.
Now, Scott Blair off to a rough start. He has missed 4 of his 5 kicks. This one a reasonable attempt of 32 yards. And Georgia Tech has the first lead of the day at 3-0. So Paul Johnson gets the advantage in a place where it is very difficult to get on top of anybody here, except the home team, that is, in Blacksburg. Now we'll see how Tyrod Taylor and the Virginia Tech offense can respond.
You're watching ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Best Buy.
Now tomorrow, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series continues in New Hampshire, presented by GoDaddy.com on ABC. Coverage begins with a NASCAR countdown at 1 p.m. Eastern, and the chase is on.
That's going to be exciting. Down to 12 drivers. Jimmy Johnson got the win last week at Richmond.
So who do you like? Who's your pick? Let's go.
Well, it's tough to pick against Kyle Busch, but you know, if it isn't going to be Kyle Busch, Carl Edwards has been running very hot. 12 very talented drivers, including Tony Stewart in the mix.
Also hot as the Yellow Jacket offense. That was a 10-play, 56-yard drive, all on the ground. Blair's 32-yard field goal. Good deep kick. Avon Morgan will take a knee in Virginia Tech, which went 3 and out, which seems like about a half an hour ago the last time they had the football. Take a look at our Best Buy impact players for Virginia Tech. Obviously, you think of the quarterback getting the big start today, Tyrod Taylor, the sophomore from Hampton, Virginia, over Sean Glennon. Kenny Lewis Jr. from Danville, Virginia, the Hokies' leading rusher coming into the game. And on defense, he's already recovered a fumble. Victor Macho Harris is super talented defensive back who certainly has a future, I believe, on Sundays. He is a senior. So not much out of the Hokies the first time they had the football. Nice little hole this time, and a tidy 5-yard gain for Kenny Lewis Jr. as we head off to New York and join Matt Weiner. Matt?
All right, let's get our nominee for the Pontiac game-changing performance. Final seconds in Buffalo. It's Temple in Buffalo. 4-point game. Drew Willie heaves it up. Naaman Roosevelt comes down with the game-winning Hail Mary. That's your game winner, 30-28. Vote for this week's Pontiac game-changing performance starting tomorrow at 9 a.m. on ESPN.com. Dave?
All right, Matt, second down at about 4 for the Hokies. And this will be a first down. Good-looking play, and continuing to run after contact is Darren Evans. Ward Daniels had him, and he just got dragged an additional 2 or 3 yards for the first down for Virginia Tech.
And when you talk about the quarterback decision for Frank Beamer, I think after the first couple of games, we said it at the top, Sean Glennon played really well against East Carolina, but he didn't have playmakers around him. And when you bring Tyrod Taylor into the game at quarterback and you have a Macho Harris outside, I think it's clearly an effort by Frank Beamer to get some potency on the offensive side of the ball.
Quick little pass that time. Going to be close to the first down yardage. Catch made by Danny Cole, redshirt freshman from Lexington, Virginia. Well, they lost 97% of their receptions last season. The guys like Eddie Royal, Josh Hyman, Josh Morgan, some really good football players went on to the next level.
Well, and you saw what Eddie Royal did to the Oakland Raiders on Monday night. 3 other very talented wide receivers. And Josh Morgan with 46 catches. He led the Hokies a year ago. Justin Harper with a nice year as well.
Second down and about 1. For the fun down on 2nd and 1. He could run for it. And he got it. Got his foot to the 46. And it took a nasty spill on the Georgia Tech bench, but he gets up. He's okay. A couple of missed tackles. Tony Clark missed the opportunity to prevent the first down. And the athletic play by Taylor to get the first down.
Tyrod Taylor. There's one thing for sure. He plays well to the Hokie faithful. They love it when he comes in the game. Flashes the ability. There's a little Mike Vick in him right there, hurdling the benches and into the equipment boxes. We've seen what Josh Nesbitt can do at quarterback for Georgia Tech, and Tyrod Taylor is every bit as electric with his feet.
But after hitting the phone boxes, he wants to give it off. And he does. That's Evans again into Georgia Tech territory with the first down. And Darren Evans has come in, running for 19 on that play. He had another substantial run before that.
With all the losses on offense at the skill positions for Virginia Tech, off of last year's team, they returned 4 starters along the offensive line, and the heavies are going to be featured this year up front. I think the success of the offensive line is really going to make the difference when we see just how successful Tyrod Taylor can be.
And it's Evans again trying to get through, and this time Tony Clark on top of him. Nice job that time, and also Kyle Jackson in there again. Another tradition of college football, the Chevrolet Scholarship Program has been recognizing the outstanding efforts of student athletes for 38 straight years. Near the end of today's game, we'll select a Chevrolet player of the game from each team. Chevy will make a $1,000 contribution to each university's general scholarship fund. And both Lewis and Evans now in a tailback. Evans running for 31 yards and just 3 carries. And in a mosh pit for Yellow Jacket tacklers, there is that very effective defensive line we talked about swallowing up Kenny Lewis Jr.
What a matchup. The offensive line for the Hokies. We talked about 4 returning starters going up against one of the best defensive fronts in all of college football. Talent inside at the tackle positions. Dynamic pass rushers outside for the Yellow Jackets.
First time that Virginia Tech has seen a 3rd down on this drive. Middle of the field open up. Well, you can hear the excitement when Taylor takes off in this crowd. They almost all got up on there very close to the marker. Might have the first down. The officials will stop the clock to measure it. But you know what? You're right. He and Josh Nesbitt seem like almost the same guy.
Well, and if you're wondering why Frank Beamer pulled Tyrod Taylor's red shirt, you get an illustration on this play. He could take a situation where there isn't much downfield. It looks like the defensive front is well disciplined. He pulls the football down and moves the chains.
With Michael Johnson on the stop, it is the first down. Little screen off here to Roberts. And he gets it to about the 15-yard line. That's Dyrell Roberts, a freshman from Windsor, Virginia, the Rover. Morgan Burnett on the stop. And all of a sudden, Tyrod Taylor has hit his last 4 passes for 25 yards, and Virginia Tech is on the move into Georgia Tech territory. We'll pick it up with quarter number 2 in Blacksburg next.
Blair. 32, Evans on the carry.
Tenth play of the drive coming up. We start the second quarter. Virginia Tech went 3 and out their first time with a football. With David Norrie and Todd Harris, I'm Dave Lamont. We're in Blacksburg. Thank you for joining us here. Tell you what, I don't think he made that first down that time, David. In fact, I'm sure he didn't. As you saw Cedric Griffin coming up from his linebacker position, number 54, as we bring you the Pacific Life game summary. And no real surprise here, David, if you take a look at the Georgia Tech offensive column and compare the rush to the passing yardage.
Well, Georgia Tech has given the Hokies defense some problems with Josh Nesbitt carrying the ball from the quarterback position. And you get the feeling that the Hokies are starting to get some rhythm up front offensively.
And it's Cedric Griffin who just sort of sat down on the field, gave out. Now, we should mention it is a very warm day here in Blacksburg. It's about 85 degrees, and it's sticky. It really feels almost like a southern Florida kind of day here with the humidity, as opposed to rural Virginia this time of the year.
And it's getting a little thick, isn't it?
It is. So perhaps he just needs a little fluid. Hopefully Cedric will be back into the ball game, a junior from Blair, South Carolina.
And Griffin has really stood out in the first 2 games for Georgia Tech. Very aggressive, and when he finds you, he'll deliver a lick.
Well, another challenge for this outstanding Yellow Jackets front line. 3rd down and a full yard, maybe even a little bit more. Go to the man who has been a key player on this drive, Darren Evans, and he continues to fight for yardage. Gets it down to the 10, a gain of 6 before Kyle Jackson brought him down. Jackson, a redshirt freshman from McDonough, Georgia. We've called his name several times already.
There's a big question in the offseason. Frank Beamer tired of the offseason, off-field antics of Brandon Orr, a guy who packed the mail for the Hokies for a couple years, and Kenny Lewis, along with Darren Evans, were the answer. Evans hits the hole in a hurry.
That was Reese who finished off what Jackson started. It had a bit of an option look to it also. A couple of yards again for Evans, and there is the safety, Reese, again. And there is Sean Glennon. 2 weeks ago, he was the man. He was the starting quarterback, the big man on campus. And 2 weeks later, there he stands, and he has no idea when he's going to play again, does he?
I'll tell you, when I watched the tape of the East Carolina game, I thought he played exceptionally well with the exception of the 2 ugly picks in the first half. But I thought he played well enough to win in that game. It was really the defense and special teams, the punt block, I thought, that lost the game for Virginia Tech.
13th play of the drive, and it's Evans again on the cutback. And the first touchdown of the game goes to the home team. Well, Sergio Render, the right guard, number 70, with a key block here. And how about Darren Evans? 8 yards on that touchdown, and he was the dominant player on this drive for the Hokies. Dustin Keys on for the PAT. So Virginia Tech goes 13 plays and 80 yards in a drive that spanned the first and second quarters, and they have thrown down the gauntlet on the Yellow Jackets offense as Darren Evans takes it in for 6. There is Darren Evans, the redshirt freshman from Indianapolis, and his 3rd touchdown of the season has given Virginia Tech their first lead of this ball game in this ACC matchup in Blacksburg, 7-3. 13-play, 80-yard drive. So Jonathan Dwyer and Tyler Melton back deep again for the Yellow Jackets. And this is Dwyer backpedaling and making the safe decision. Well, David, the run was great, but you got to have some help to get to the end zone.
Well, and Sergio Render, he might take Darren Evans out for hamburgers, fries, shakes, because sometimes you get outside and you don't get quite enough of the free safety. That was Dominic Reese. Render fanned a bit, and you rely on your tailback to make a great move in the open field. Actually, 2 moves. And if Darren Evans keeps running the ball at that clip, it's going to make a lot of people forget about Brandon Orr in a hurry.
That's Ronnie Jones in motion. First pass caught by Tyler Melton, and he'll get across the 25. Among the tacklers there, Stephen Virgil and Davon Morgan. So that is the first pass attempt all day long by Georgia Tech. And we should point out, and you and I were talking about this the other day, Josh Nesbitt does have a very good-looking arm.
He does, and he's pretty comfortable from the pocket on the rhythm throws. He gets a lot more comfortable when he gets outside. And when we talked to Bud Foster, one of the great defensive coordinators in all the land, Bud Foster said that he really worries me when he breaks outside of the tackles.
There's some classic old-fashioned option. There's the pitch, and that is going to be a first down. Jonathan Dwyer. In fact, that may have even been a pass. That might have gone forward. Either way, it's going to be a first down and a gain of 10 before Macho Harris ran him out of bounds.
And this is not the triple option. This is what they're trying to do. Some get Dwyer outside. Remember last week against Boston College, the big touchdown run came on a play like this one, the speed option. And Nesbitt showed exceptional patience for Paul Johnson, waiting and then dishing the ball off on the perimeter.
That is officially considered a run, David. So the play distribution, 17 snaps for Georgia Tech, 16 runs.
Sounds a lot like Navy, doesn't it?
Obviously, we will have flags. A lot of contact up front. Cordero Thompson for Virginia Tech.
I thought the Hokies might have moved early up front. That might have been Richard.
ACC crew headed by Brad Allen.
Prior to the snap, offside, the defense into the neutral zone, causing the offensive player to react. 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
All right, time for the City X Factor, David.
For the Yellow Jackets, you want to make Tyrod Taylor a passer in obvious passing situations, more namely third down. And then for Virginia Tech, don't let Jonathan Dwyer pop long runs, either working the inside or getting outside on the speed option.
He hasn't had any really long ones. Really, Nesbitt has done more damage on the ground than Dwyer, but this time Nesbitt's going to get damage done to him. Boy, Orion Martin all over Nesbitt for a loss in the backfield, all the way back to the 35. That's going to bring up 11 yards to go on second down.
Oh, what a great story. Orion Martin, former walk-on. This guy just came out of nowhere to lock down a defensive end position for Virginia Tech a year ago. He set a record that had stood for 22 years for defensive ends at Virginia Tech. This offseason, 39-inch vertical. Wow.
And great penetration again this time. They're coming from right up the gut, and John Graves, a redshirt sophomore from Richmond, busted that play. And now we talked about how Tyrod Taylor needs to be made third and long. Now you've made Josh Nesbitt third and long.
Well, and it limits your playbook some. You don't want to take risks with the football. And we talked about the losses on offense. Virginia Tech lost 7 starters on defense and a lot of quality names. Xavier Adibi, of course, Vince Hall, probably the best linebacker tandem in the country a year ago. And defense has come to play today.
2 out of 3 in third down conversion so far for the Yellow Jackets. And Nesbitt, look at the eyesight he has, and he has sighted a first down. Well, who needs to throw the ball on third and long if you can do that?
Josh Nesbitt has exceptional ability in a one-on-one situation when he's out in space to make you look silly. And this is a third and long, a situation that Georgia Tech is not supposed to pick up. Look at, he just sidesteps the first tackler. I mean, just slips him with a beautiful move and then lowers the shoulder to move the chain.
You see what he does. The first couple of games. He's got 87 yards on the ground already and 13 carries. There is that attempt to pop the ball up the middle with Dwyer, and it's swallowed up by Virginia Tech. So how do you think so far, David? We got a long way to go. The Hokies have handled that straight ahead play, that first option read.
Well, I think they have concentrated on it. It's very obvious at Georgia Tech. You know, Paul Johnson is a master. He's the offensive coordinator as well as the head coach. He's a master at watching how you're playing him early, and then he's got built-in controls to counteract what you're doing on defense. I think we're seeing Georgia Tech test Virginia Tech on the perimeter here early in the football game.
And again, Dwyer, and again, he is hit pretty quickly. Might have gotten a couple of yards that time, but coming away is Sturdivant. And also Stephen Friday, number 82, getting a little playing time.
Well, we sat down with Orion Martin, and he said all game long the defensive ends for the Hokies were going to be pinching down on Jonathan Dwyer, crashing down on the B-back on the inside runs.
Well, 3rd and long again, but Georgia Tech still averaging 5 yards a carry. They've already run for over 100 yards. 105 right now. And Nesbitt hit almost the second the ball was snapped. That's how quick Virginia Tech has been in this series. Demetrius Taylor made the contact, almost got the ball out of Nesbitt's hands. He was in there that quickly.
Well, Nesbitt was trying to open up on an option to the short side of the field and just got shut down there by big number 56. Had to reverse field and just kind of saved the day. And Nesbitt's going to be called upon from time to time to just save the football and live to fight another day by punting it away.
Scott Blair, who handles the place kicks, also handles the punting. Well, he just drilled this. Macho Harris will let this go over his head and into the end zone. Well, Georgia Tech, with their old-fashioned offensive style, ran into a buzzsaw defensively on this last series as the front four for Virginia Tech dominated. Now they get the ball.
The world is mine, so I grind. I'll never let it keep me down, 'cause
Well, you take a look at some of the training that goes on here at Virginia Tech. You've got a military presence here and a very strong one in Blacksburg. Well, it's tough conditioning, and they do it at the darndest hours of the morning, too. Meantime, Virginia Tech on offense. A little bit of room here to run, but Taylor will dump it off, and it'll be incomplete. So both quarterbacks have shown great ability with their feet, and Josh Nesbitt and Tyrod Taylor. That's the first incomplete pass, however, for either team. Taylor had hit on his first 4 for 25 yards. The Virginia Tech's defense told a great story the last time around. Now see if their offense, which went 80 yards on their last time. And the handoff goes to Kenny Lewis Jr. And there is a good example of that outstanding front with Derek Morgan in the defensive end. We go down to the field and Todd Harris. Todd.
Dave, I'm now joined by the Virginia Tech president, Dr. Charles Steger. And Dr. Steger, it's been almost a year and a half since the unfortunate events of April 16th. Where is the healing process for this university?
Well, after the extraordinary tragedy on April 16th, the university community has really come together in a way that was unimaginable.
What has the building process been like since then?
Well, first of all of our enrollments are higher than they've ever been. Our research is up, and you can see every home game is completely sold out. So we feel very positive about the support from the state and across the country.
President, thank you for your time and best of luck to you.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
That's going to be the second 3 and out for the Hokies offense. They couldn't get anything done that time. Tyrod Taylor picked up 3, so it's going to be 4th down and 10, and Brett Bowden will come in to punt to Tyler Melton.
Those are situations where Sean Glennon might be a more effective quarterback. Those 3rd and longs, 2nd and longs, where you have more of a threat down the field in the passing game. But you know, obviously Frank Beamer and Brian Steinspring, the offensive coordinator, like Tyrod's overall effect with his feet and his passing.
And that just didn't look right at all. So we'll see if Georgia Tech is going to be tacked with a 5-yard offsides penalty.
Prior to the snap, snap infraction. Number 50, offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains fourth down.
Snapper Colin Carroll guilty of a snap infraction, whatever that might have been. Whatever it is, it's going to back up and put Bowden into the end zone almost.
You don't see many penalties over the years in special teams for a Frank Beamer coach team.
Well, the funny thing is they have had one punt blocked against them, but they haven't blocked one yet in the early going. Melton trying to make something out of nothing, and a valiant effort, but it's just not going to work as he is swarmed under by the Hokies special teams. A 37-yard punt. Georgia Tech's got great field position at their own 48. Well, East Carolina continuing to do well. You see Tulane coming back, but East Carolina special teams becoming a force in college football. Best starting position for either team so far today, and Georgia Tech quickly getting it into Virginia Tech territory with Roddy Jones's first carry of the day. That's good for 9.
Really evident that Josh Nesbitt's getting more and more confident coming outside with his decisions on the pitch and the keeps.
All right, let's take a look at the Aflac trivia question. Virginia Tech was one of 3 FBS schools to win 10-plus games in each of the last 4 seasons. Name the other 2.
You noodle that.
I think I know that.
To think about that.
Second and short.
Give me a little time.
All right, you will have a little time. And Dwyer, well, I'll tell you one of the things Bud Foster, the defensive coordinator for the Hokies, talked about is we've got to punish him. Now, not hurt Jonathan Dwyer, of course not, but punish him. And he has taken, even on the fakes or on a play like that, a ton of hard hits.
Well, any defense that's preparing for this offense faces challenges. Bud Foster having problems trying to give his defense the same look during the week of practice, but there's one thing he's going to get across to his kids, and that is every time that Nesbitt opens up as a quarterback and every time that Dwyer pounds into the line of scrimmage, we want to hit them. We want to put them on the ground, and a defense wants to try to wear those 2 players down as the game goes on.
And Pernell Sturdivant's hit made it a little bit short of the first down. Well, tonight, Jim Tressel's Ohio State Buckeyes take on Pete Carroll's USC Trojans. Saturday Night Football presented by Southwest Airlines tonight at 8 Eastern on ABC. Tonight's game is also available on our friends on ESPN Radio. What do you like in that little game?
USC. I like USC a lot, just as long as they don't play into Jim Tressel's hands. You know, the way that Jim Tressel likes to play on the road is conservative and handle the football, win the turnover battle, and win it on special teams and defense. If USC plays relaxed and plays with all their weapons, I think the Trojans win that game big.
And Georgia Tech flagged her down, so never mind this play. Didn't look like he made it either based on the spot, but this penalty is going to be against the Yellow Jackets.
Prior to the snap, false start, offense number 71. 5-yard penalty, remains third down.
Yeah, the fact that the Buckeyes are missing a Beanie Wells is a huge development. It looked midweek like Beanie Wells was going to be ready to go, and obviously one of the top 2 or 3 tailbacks in the country, Dave.
And Jim Tressel saying yesterday that he's out, will not play. Now, do you believe him?
I do believe Jim Tressel. Okay. He's going to make that statement Friday before the game.
And it's Nesbitt again, and he has crossed the 42 to the 41, and that is a first down, a gain of 7. They needed 6.
The acceleration of Josh Nesbitt is really becoming apparent. Going from a lateral position, looks like he got up a little bit slow there. He tried to step through a tackle and might have wrenched his ankle or his knee, but he'll stay in the huddle and continue to go. Watch his ability to get from a starting position and then knife the ball upfield. Coaches talk about north-south. He got the ball vertical in a hurry.
That was Cam Martin, Orion Martin's younger brother, on the stop. See how Nesbitt is here on this play. First straight drop back. Wide open. That's Roddy Jones. And he will score. Who says they can't throw the ball at Georgia Tech? That's 41 yards, capping off a 4-play, 52-yard drive, and there was nobody, David, within 10 yards of Jones when he caught that football.
Well, and that's what this offense does to you. I mean, they lull you to sleep. They pound at you at one point, 17 runs and 18 offensive plays for Georgia Tech. But Nesbitt is good enough with his arm that he's going to find open receivers. And he caught his man in stride. What a throw.
Good snap for Blair. But it's Beamer ball. And Virginia Tech trying to get 2 points out of it. They will not, but they save one. That might have been John Graves in there again. And if it was, that is his third blocked kick in 3 games. Graves has blocked a kick against East Carolina and Furman. But Paul Johnson got a 6 in here on a perfect pass from Nesbitt to Roddy Jones. Roddy Jones' first touchdown catch of the season.
You're watching ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Best Buy.
For the 120th time since Frank Beamer took over at Virginia Tech, they block a kick, 24th point after touchdown, but Georgia Tech gets a 41-yard Josh Nesbitt to Roddy hookup, David. And Nesbitt has accounted for 128 total yards for the Yellow Jackets so far.
He's been a smooth operator, great decisions on the pitches, on the keeps, and when he has thrown the football, he has made it count for the Yellow Jackets.
Returnable kick for Lewis. Trying to reach out, but no chance. He looked like he had a little bit of a hole, but Georgia Tech shuts him down behind Michael Peterson as we take one more look at a perfect touchdown.
Yeah, and you're wondering, how did Roddy Jones get so open in the secondary for Josh Nesbitt? He's going to be right here in the slot, and he's just going to get behind the zone defense and run into a big void in the secondary. Linebackers start to bite on the action in the backfield, and that is an absolute strike from Nesbitt. Well thrown ball, and Roddy Jones a nice job of running after the catch.
That was Nesbitt's first touchdown pass on the year. We'll see how the Hokies counter. They go to the ground. And a couple of yards for Darren Evans. We go to Matt Weiner in New York for an update. Matt?
All right, Dave, this Sports Center right now is presented by Vizio. Damage to Houston's Reliance Stadium from a hurricane. Now Tropical Storm Ike is likely to lead to the postponement of the Ravens-Texans game, currently scheduled for Monday night. No word on when or where yet. Meanwhile, Astros officials say no major damage was suffered by Minute Maid Park. No word whether or not they will play this weekend.
That is Greg Boone. They love him here in Hokieville. Daryl Richard on the stop, but the redshirt junior from Chesapeake, Virginia. That's his first catch on the season.
Well, there were losses in the offseason at wide receiver, well documented. Tailback gone. The talent of a Brandon Orr. The Hokies are set at tight end, and Boone gives them a playmaker, not only a tight end, but they will line him up in the backfield and give the ball to him in certain situations.
That's only 280 pounds coming at you, David.
That's a lot of beef.
Underneath, and you can hear by the crowd who gets the football. They all yell Boone as he picks up a short gain. All right, now, David, you have a little time to think about our Aflac trivia question. Virginia Tech, one of 3 FBS schools to win 10-plus games in the last 4 seasons. Name the other 2 teams.
Well, you'd have to name, I would say, LSU, Oklahoma, Texas.
Correct, but
USC.
Incomplete. USC and Texas the answer. And Kyle Jackson busted up that pass attempt, trying to get it again to Greg Boone. Yeah, it's USC and Texas.
I can't believe you gave me the buzzer on television like that.
I did, didn't I? I'm sorry. I won't do it again.
Hey, this is not a game show.
Well, there's Frank Beamer, who mixed it up a little bit on his radio show the other night. Caller came in and kind of assaulted the offense, and it's not very good. Maybe you ought to think about firing a coach. And Beamer, although he never raised his voice, mounted, I thought, an eloquent defense of his offense.
I heard the tape. I thought he was very, very diplomatic. Well handled.
How about that for a play for the Georgia Tech secondary by Jahi Ward-Daniels, the senior from Hoover, Alabama. That play loses yards, and Georgia Tech will take a timeout here with 1:50 to go. And they will get the ball perhaps in good field position.
Well, this is a Dave Womack coach defense, and we've heard so much about John Tenuta, the zone blitz over the last few years at Georgia Tech, one of the top blitzing defenses in the country. They led the country a year ago in sacks, but this group is very aggressive as well, and they like to make plays behind the line of scrimmage. We'll be right back.
So Georgia Tech with the advantage, and they called the timeout. With that time left, 1:58 as the clock here had run down to 1:51, but the official put some extra seconds back on the clock. Georgia Tech about to get the ball back. Well, ABC Tuesday, if the summer games handed out medals for splats, splashes, and face plants, these contestants would win the gold. The biggest show of the season is the event that has America laughing. All new Wipeout, Tuesday, 8 Eastern, 7 Central on ABC. I got to tell you, in all honesty, that's my kid's favorite show. They don't ever wipe. Have you ever seen it?
No, I'm going to have to tune in.
You like to see people humiliated?
Wind up that TiVo.
Well, I tell you what, my boys will never miss a wipeout. Look out here as Brent Bowden almost had another punt block. It one blocked against East Carolina. Got a sideways bounce on that. And Georgia Tech will get above average field position at the 37 following that 36-yard punt. Now, this is not, well, all right. Let's bring up one of the things that some people don't believe about Georgia Tech, David, that they can score, that they cannot score quickly. However, admittedly, they played a weaker team early in the season, Jacksonville State. They've had 7 touchdown drives with less than 3 minutes coming into this game and 5 of less than 2.
Well, and you look back at the Navy program under Paul Johnson, that was very much a quick strike offense as well. Averaged just over 2 minutes per touchdown drive.
They'll try to pop that play loose. They fake to Dwyer and go to Nesbitt across the 40 to the 43-yard line. Both teams with 2 timeouts.
Such a big part of the success of this Georgia Tech offense, especially playing against the speed of a Virginia Tech defense, is going to be predicated on the decision-making of Josh Nesbitt, and I think he's been very solid here in the first half.
The ball's on the ground again for the second time. And for the second time, Virginia Tech has recovered. Dwyer gave it up, and Demetrius Taylor has recovered it for the home team, and now they have the football at the Georgia Tech 43 with 2 timeouts and 1:10.
Well, some of the simple things have been the problems for Georgia Tech in the early season. Handoffs, pitches, the mesh between the B-back and the quarterback, and he just left the football on Dwyer's hip. Demetrius Taylor, a nice job of covering the football, but those are basics. Those are fundamentals in this Paul Johnson offense, and the Yellow Jackets have struggled with ball security early in this season.
10 fumbles, and they've now lost 7. Now Taylor trying to do what Nesbitt has done so successfully, and he's got an edge. Picked up 3 additional yards, but it looked like he was going to run out of bounds. And just like that, they're at the 20. 23 yards for Tyrod Taylor.
Well, this type of run harkens back to 1999 and a guy by the name of Vic playing behind center. Look at how effortless he is with the cuts. Always dangerous, setting defenders up in the open field. A very smooth player in space.
Right ahead, there's Dustin Pickle across the 15, and an ankle tackle by Kyle Jackson kept that from getting inside the 10-yard line.
Nice blocks up front for Virginia Tech. This offensive line is starting to create some creases, and they're getting it done against a very talented front four.
Well, we had some momentum swings in this game. This time Dustin Pickle was hit immediately. Probably got back to the line of scrimmage. The very talented Michael Johnson, a senior from Selma, Alabama, on the stop.
Now look at the frame on Michael Johnson.
Virginia Tech.
6'7", 260.
Timeout.
He reminds me a lot of Calais Campbell, who played down at Miami.
Yes.
That long neck, the height. This is a type of athlete that is going to have scouts salivating around the NFL.
Well, the field half in shadow and half in sun. Let's find out where we can find Todd Harris. Trying to get a suntan, or is he staying out of that, Todd?
It is toasty, I will say that, but I'm not complaining. You guys are talking about Michael Johnson. This guy's projected to be a first-round NFL draft pick by Todd McShay of ESPN Scouting. Now, he's only going to play about half of the season, opening win over Jacksonville State. NFL scouts need not worry, problem solved. First of all, he has about 5% body fat, which is basically David Norrie. And secondly, he played on every single Tech special team along his defensive duties. Now, he got some additional advice from former teammate and now Dallas Cowboy Tashard Sharsh, who got a tip from Emmett Smith. The secret drink of choice? Well, babies drink it. Pedialyte. He drank Pedialyte during Tech's win over BC, and now no problems. The coaches did also take him off a few special teams to give him a break.
Todd Harris, the pride of Lincoln High School in Portland, Oregon.
You sure about that being the pride part?
Well, Todd's favorite beverage of choice was not Pedialyte, I can assure you.
Dustin Pickle will get a first down to the 5-yard line. That'll temporarily halt the clock. Cooper Taylor in there may have saved the touchdown. In fact, I think he did. Ball inside the 5, and Virginia Tech very quick to the line. And they'll spike the ball. That stops the clock with 19 to go. They have one timeout. All right, now this is not a passing attack like the way this was Sean Glennon. Obviously, they call the plays differently for Tyrod Taylor. You've got a good situation here, second down, David. What would you like to see Virginia Tech do?
Well, you look up on the scoreboard and you see the Hokies have a timeout left, Dave, and that gives them the flexibility to run the football here if they'd like. And it gives you that ability to either run or pass. And if you're going to run the football, I think you do it here. And I wouldn't be surprised if they run the football on second or third down.
They do with Dustin Pickle, and he won't get to the end zone.
Use the timeout.
There it goes.
And it gives you the flexibility here to throw a ball into the end zone, and if you don't hit it, you go into the locker room most likely with a lead.
Cedric Griffin on the tackle. What we touched earlier on Frank Beamer's success. He's an alum at Virginia Tech. In fact, he was number 25. He played here. You take a look at Frank Beamer's coaching career, which began in 1987. 210 victories, 15 straight bowl games. 210 wins include his days at Murray State. And conference championships, yeah. Dancing with the Stars may not call him, but he does have an ACC championship from just last year. And there was Sean Glennon, and a great irony. Sean Glennon was the MVP of that game, and a few months later he finds himself on the bench.
Well, his record speaks for itself, and we travel the country every week. We meet with coaching staffs on Fridays, and when you sit down with the Frank Beamer and his coordinators, Brian Steinspring and Bud Foster, really a class act, and they do everything they can to really make you comfortable and help you understand the system. And boy, the wins and what he's done at Virginia Tech is just amazing to me. 2 out of the last 4 ACC championships. He played for another championship, lost in the championship game the 3rd year. The only thing that has eluded him has been a national title, and he came very close. Led Florida State in the second half back in '99 in the Sugar Bowl.
And now a timeout. Looks like the Yellow Jackets will take this one. Well, that Florida State team that Virginia Tech lost to was freakishly talented, too. That was probably their last really great team.
Oh, Chris Winkie.
Man.
And remember the juggling catch by Peter Warwick. But Beamer's team with Michael Vick at the helm. The walk down memory lane.
Number 25, a retired number here. Or at least an honored number here, actually. Not retired. It's actually worn by Josh Oglesby, but his son Shane played here and also wore number 25. Frank, pretty good football player. I forgot to ask him if he ever blocked a kick.
I don't know the answer to that question either, Dave, but it was interesting. He said he played for Jerry Claiborne here at Virginia Tech. And, of course, Jerry Claiborne went on, coach at Kentucky. I didn't know that he was a player for Coach Claiborne.
I asked him about his special teams influences, and he cited Bobby Ross, Jerry Claiborne, Marv Levy, All guys who are well known for their special teams.
Well, this is going to be a pass play, and if it's not there, throw it away. Make sure you have the 3 points squarely in your pocket.
Or it's a touchdown on the quarterback draw. I guess the question for you is, was that designed that way, or did he read that?
We'd have to ask the coaching staff at halftime or after the game, but if that was a designed play call and you get stopped before the goal line, you go into the locker room trailing. I think that was Tyrod Taylor on a called pass play, just seeing an opening and deciding to take it.
Dustin Keys adds the extra point, and in a game of huge momentum swings, unless Georgia Tech busts the kickoff, Virginia Tech will have the advantage at halftime as Tyrod Taylor makes this play with his eyes and his feet. And Tyrod Taylor scores, and he ran for 112 yards last week in the victory over Furman. That 3-yard run there, a bit of improvisation looked like, and that puts Virginia Tech back in front.
Well, that was a called quarterback draw. You talk about rolling the dice in a big situation. Not only 3 versus 7 points on the line there, but a lot of momentum. Coaches talk about momentum going into the locker room, and I really believe that was just an athlete, a great athlete, making a play with his feet. And if that was the case, Tyrod Taylor was taking a risk because he would have heard about it.
Oh yeah, no timeouts. They're done. Dwyer, the top of your screen. Melton closest to you if they get to the ball. And it'll be Dwyer. And well, you could see his vision. He was dragged down there, but he was doing everything he could to try to find a hole. 4 seconds left for Georgia Tech to run one more play in this first half. And we'll see if the Yellow Jackets stick with the Nesbitt-Dwyer combination. The only problem, they've had 2 burps in the game, and that last burp cost him a touchdown as the fumble by Dwyer set up the Tech drive.
He looks so much like Michael Vick. Watch him as he crosses the goal line, and then the signature Michael Vick, both chin straps coming off. How many times do we see number 7 do that here at Virginia Tech?
They'll play it straight and go into the locker room trailing will Georgia Tech as the Hokies score late. Tyrod Taylor may have this Michael Vick act down as Virginia Tech leads at halftime 14-9. You take a look at the numbers, the damage they have done on the ground, and Nesbitt has a touchdown pass as well. Stay tuned after the break for our halftime reports. On a warm day in Blacksburg, Virginia, the home team trying to avoid going 1-2. Haven't done that since 1995, and right now Virginia Tech leads Georgia Tech 14-9. With David Norrie, I'm Dave Lamont. It's all about the quarterbacks. First, you always tell me that, but it really is in this game so far with Tyrod Taylor and Josh Nesbitt. David, Josh Nesbitt has 145 total yards out of 175 of the Yellow Jackets, and Tyrod Taylor, well, that decision by Frank Beamer to start him is looking pretty good.
It is looking good. I think Tyrod Taylor has been everything that Frank Beamer wants him to be. And then you have Josh Nesbitt, 98 yards on the ground in the first half. The problem, the 2 turnovers. They have a lead with about a minute to go out near midfield. Big turnover, big turnaround in terms of momentum in this football game. And Virginia Tech brings the ball right downfield. They cash in on the touchdown. Turns a 2-point lead into a 5-point deficit for Georgia Tech.
Virginia Tech won the first half toss and deferred, and this is their reward. And the Hokies don't get very far on that return. Davon Morgan on it. They'll take it at about the 26 as we take you through our Pacific Life game summary. And Darren Evans did a lot of work in the tailback position for the Hokies. Picked up an 8-yard touchdown run for the first 6-pointer of the game. They made it 7-3. But Ronnie Jones got underneath the zone and scores on a beautiful touchdown pass by a team that's not known for throwing the football. And then in the final 20 seconds, Tyrod Taylor may have ad-libbed that because Virginia Tech had no timeouts. If he had gotten stopped inside the 2-yard line, Virginia Tech would not have gotten any points in the second quarter. And that is Taylor right there. Still has the football. It looked like he stopped that play 2 or 3 times, but gets the first down. Let's find out what the coaches had to say. And for that, we turn to Todd Harris.
Well, Dave, I talked with Paul Johnson as he was going into the locker room. I asked him, Coach, how much of your halftime speech is going to be about ball security? He said, no, we're fine. He said, it's all about execution and patience for that. He says, we'll settle the kids down. We'll be fine. He said, I was not happy, though, about that last touchdown they were able to put in Virginia Tech. Also, Coach Frank Beamer said he was very happy with what his team is doing, especially Tyrod Taylor. He said he's doing some great stuff. He's given us a lot of opportunities. And as Tyrod came out of the locker room, I talked to him. I said, Tyrod, was that a read or a design play on that last touchdown? He said, that was all read.
And that is all nothing right there. A loss of a couple of yards as they go to Kenny Lewis Jr. And he was met immediately. Well, there's the instincts and maybe the stuff that not to pick on Sean Glennon, but maybe he doesn't make that play and Tyrod Taylor does.
Well, and it's live by the sword, die by the sword. And Tyrod Taylor talks about a read. Todd Harris confirmed it. That was a designed pass play, and Taylor rolls the dice. He takes a chance, and with his feet, I think he's going to be well suited to take chances from time to time.
Georgia Tech offsides, and whistles come. And all the fans are a little bit annoyed that Greg Boone got hit after the whistle. There should not be a flag there, and won't be. The ACC crew led by referee Brad Allen. Looked to me as if Michael Johnson jumped.
Prior to the snap, offside on the defense, number 93, causing the offensive player to react. 5 yards from the previous spot. Repeat the down.
And the preseason All-ACC performer finds himself standing on the sidelines following that penalty.
And Tyrod Taylor's ability to run the football, make plays outside, has got this front four a little antsy for Georgia Tech. And you start taking chances. You start trying to figure out ways to get to Taylor a little bit more quickly. Johnson was offsides.
On 2nd and 7, 1 tackle broken, but you couldn't break 3 as Lewis tried to get to the outside. Kyle Jackson's played a great game for the Yellow Jackets, that linebacker position, and he was among the tacklers there. Picked up a yard, brings up 3rd down and 6. And 3rd and longs have been interesting to watch with these two quarterbacks because Nesbitt has converted a few for Georgia Tech with his legs, and Taylor shows that same capability on 3rd and long. It isn't automatically just a classic drop back passing down here.
Now, both quarterbacks have shown a nice feel on pass calls to pull the football down and move the chains running the football.
And Johnson swallows him up. First contact made by Derek Morgan, number 91, but Michael Johnson, with the help of Cedric Griffin, just enveloped Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, he just engulfed him. He swallowed him up. And watch the push inside. That's Richard. Vance Walker working, and then Michael Johnson just finishing Taylor off from behind. Taylor very lucky to hold on to the football.
The loss of 13, so he more than made up for that little penalty. Brent Bowden into punt, Tyler Melton in single safety. That's a good kick by Bowden. Boy, he rooted this one. Melton made the first man miss, but not the other two. Picked up 5 on that, however. Peterson in there again for Virginia Tech. A 48-yard punt, a 5-yard return. We'll take a look at Josh Nesbitt and the Georgia Tech offense when we return. And Georgia Tech's first sack of the game has made Virginia Tech in a little bit of an uncomfortable position as you take a look at the beautiful campus here in Blacksburg. And a gorgeous day. Warm. It's in the mid-80s today. But student life here picking up. And they have a ball game with their team in front of an orange effect day. Orange everywhere, including these uniforms for the Hokies. They haven't worn them since 1994. And there's Nesbitt. He made it look like a handoff straight ahead, but he has been a magician with that football so far today, David Norrie. Now, David, you insisted on bringing your video games along. Have you done anything productive with that?
Well, we called in Ridley Scott to direct this, too. If you look at this opening shot here, kind of shades of Gladiator, the movie. The Hokies and Georgia Tech teaming up the triple option, the give to Dwyer. Cam Chancellor comes up, makes the hit. And this time, EA Sports goes outside to Roddy Jones. And this time, Roddy Jones again comes in motion. Takes it all the way to the painted area. Big props for the boys at EA Sports.
And Nesbitt this time didn't fool him. And he'll get no gain, may have even lost half a yard. Now, we've shown you the game version from EA Sports. Now let's take a look at the real thing.
Yeah, and I kind of wonder what Ridley Scott would do with this live tape, but you get an idea. Nesbitt faking into the line of scrimmage, keeps. This time dishes the ball outside to Smith. He's made some nice decisions, and he's done some tremendous things with his feet. The only knock on Nesbitt, they put the ball in the grass a couple times.
You see what he's done so far, and I think Virginia Tech is happy they've held Dwyer to only 25. But Nesbitt keeps it again. Let me ask you something here, David. Is there something that he is reading as to why he's taking so many of the carries?
Well, obviously, when a quarterback's keeping on options, the defense is playing the pitch man well, and Bud Foster does not want to see a Dwyer or Roddy Jones get loose down the sideline. Dwyer had the touchdown late against BC that was a difference a week ago, and I'm not sure how you really want to play it against Georgia Tech. You pick your poison. I personally don't like to see Nesbitt running the ball at me either. He's that dangerous.
Well, he runs it into the middle of the defense, and that time Pernell Sturdivant right there, along with Nikos Brown for the Hokies. So not very much there for Georgia Tech. Going to set up 4th down, and I'd say 4.5 yards to go. And we'll see if the punt unit comes out, and it does.
Big shoes to fill for Sturdivant and Brett Warren taking over for Adibi and Hall, two great linebackers in the legacy here at Virginia Tech, and Paul Johnson is going to play field position.
Scott Blair, who took over for Durant Brooks, drafted by the Redskins, the punter position. Macho Harris makes a nice hit, and that punt goes into the end zone for a touchback, and the Hokies will take over at their own 20-yard line, a 42-yard kick. In Blacksburg, Virginia, Lane Stadium, Worsham Field on the Blacksburg campus. Take a look at that orange effect. You get a pretty good look at what it's like. I'm Dave Lamont, joined by David Norrie, and Todd Harris is on the field. Paul Johnson's first trip to Blacksburg, 1-0 in the ACC. Tyrod Taylor starting over Sean Glennon. That appears to be a permanent move by the coaching staff here at Virginia Tech. Taylor going to wear a red shirt all season, was all set for it, emotionally prepared for it, understood after starting 5 games last year, but after the East Carolina game, the coaches made the switch. And again, that Georgia Tech front line is Darren Evans, who had a great first half. They have lost a yard here, back to the 19.
So much on the line for the Yellow Jackets. If they were able to get out of this game alive with a win, 2 big victories to open the ACC conference on the road. Boston College and Virginia Tech. Big stakes for Paul Johnson.
Next week, they have a non-conference game in Atlanta against Mississippi State. Taylor out in the flat. Neatly handled to the 25-yard line. Danny Cole with his second catch.
Yeah, Danny Cole has done a nice job as a possession receiver, the best route runner for Virginia Tech. And Taylor looks very settled in the pocket. He's taken a little bit off his throws. You know, sometimes when you get a young athlete like Tyrod Taylor, he wants to throw it at one speed. He's a fastball pitcher, but he's shown the ability to take a couple revolutions off the football.
Haven't seen them go deep yet, though, have we?
No, we haven't.
Taylor 8 for 10 and only 39 yards out of those 8 completions. That may have been a quarterback draw, but he's got the quickness to get to the chains. It looks like he did it. Cooper Taylor ran him out of bounds.
Now watch the move here that sets up the run at the line of scrimmage. And to make that kind of move in a phone booth, there's not a lot of space, and he gets from a stop position wide and out on the perimeter in a hurry. And once he gets outside, it's pretty much whatever Tyrod Taylor wants to do, he's going to get it done.
And you can see that he didn't make it.
And from this position on the field, if you're not going to see Frank Beamer, go for it. This is not the time. You got a 5-point lead. You got to punt it away.
So he'll send out the junior from Centerville, Virginia, Brent Bowden, who also is the holder for this team.
97,
and Tyler Melton, deep safety for the Yellow Jackets.
You get some people out there saying, well, come on, it's a couple inches. They're going to pick it up 98, 99% of the time. But you also have to look at risk reward. If you pick up a first down there, you still only have a first down at your own 30-yard line. So not a lot to gain and a heck of a lot to lose if you don't pick it up.
And you're going against a premier front line in the ACC. And Bowden puts the foot nicely in that one. Melton makes the fair catch, and that was the wise move as he had a Hokie defender right in his face. A 50-yard punt. Georgia Tech has it at their own 20 when we return.
ESPN College Football on ABC. Brought to you by Dr. Pepper. Drink it slow. Doctor's orders. Wrangler, makers of Wrangler 5-star premium denim jeans. And Dodge, introducing the all-new Dodge Journey. If you can dream it, do it. Dodge, grab life.
All right, that'll get you going first thing in the morning when you hear that bugler. Part of the campus life at Virginia Tech.
Dave, you were not up at that hour.
Actually, I think I was. Unfortunately, I was.
Well, what were you doing?
Wishing that I was asleep. Nesbitt almost fell down there. Flag down. And he bounces that pass to the feet. We've had very few penalties here. And this one almost certainly is going to be against the Yellow Jackets. And Nesbitt, only time that he's looked a little bit clumsy there. And you could probably all see that one yourself with a holding penalty. Sixth penalty today between the two teams.
Holding. Offense for 36. 10 yards from the previous spot. Remains first down.
And for some offenses in college football, those penalties can be overcome from time to time. But for a Georgia Tech offense, and you go back to Navy under Paul Johnson, this is not an offense that is as well equipped to get out of a hole when you have a big 10-yard penalty to start a drive.
And Georgia Tech is missing a starting receiver, too, and Demarius Thomas, who did not make the trip, suffering after effects of a concussion. Only a couple of yards that time for Jonathan Dwyer. Jason Worlds, who separated his shoulder a few days ago, but he's fine.
Yeah, well, he looked healthy on that play, and it looks like Jonathan Dwyer is slow getting up. Now, this is the problem with the B-back position and putting your most talented athlete on offense behind the quarterback, getting him hit on every play. The give, and that is a physical tackle by Friday, pinching down from the defensive end position. And it looked like he set Dwyer down on Dwyer's shoulder.
That would be ironic if it was the Jason Worlds with the bad shoulder delivering an injury to Dwyer's shoulder, if indeed that's what it is. Todd Harris will find out, we hope. You see Dwyer's numbers, not what Georgia Tech needs. We've talked so much about Nesbitt, but if this offense is going to work, Jonathan Dwyer's got to have numbers way better than that.
Well, in Virginia Tech's defensive scheme, along with their aggressiveness, their tackling, so much better than the way they played tackling against East Carolina ball carriers 2 weeks ago. And I'll tell you what, they have taken care of their number one priority. That's shutting down Jonathan Dwyer.
Quincy Kelly comes into the ball game, but it's going to be Nesbitt who keeps the football and goes outside the 15 to the 17-yard line. Well, I did mention Frank Beamer probably won't be invited on Dancing with the Stars based on the video we had of him, but the wait is over. who will be the next group of movers and shakers to light up the dance floor. ABC's Emmy-nominated Dancing with the Stars, a 3-night live premiere event, begins Monday, September 22nd on ABC.
Ex-football players have had a lot of success on that show. The top 2 finishes, Emmitt Smith, Jason Taylor.
What do you think of Warren Sapp's chances?
I don't think he's going to be top 2.
As a man open and a first down for Georgia Tech, Zach Fisher, the redshirt freshman from Marietta, Georgia's first catch of the season, keeps the drive going for Georgia Tech.
Nesbitt kept this play going with his feet. He's going to open up to the left. And now he's going to look all the way back. That was not a first choice. He makes the throw moving back towards the line of scrimmage. And again, taking a little bit off the football, making sure that the ball is accurately, safely placed.
3 out of 3 for 63 yards and a touchdown for Nesbitt. Haven't seen this play very often to Lucas Cox, and the A-back in this offense takes it out for about 13, almost 14 yards, and a first down to Stephen Virgil on the stop.
Well, and this is a dangerous toss pitch in terms of ball security. Watch how far Nesbitt gets the ball outside. The degree of difficulty goes up, but that time it was perfectly executed, and Cox showing that the A-back position can have a physical aspect to it. This Georgia Tech offense.
Nice lead block by the guard too. Cord Howard got out and really planted one on a Virginia Tech defender. Nesbitt pitches again, and that's Roddy Jones. Gets it to about midfield. We go to the studio and Matt Weiner.
All right, Dave, here are our nominees for the AT&T ESPN All-America Player of the Week. And when you score 69 points, you can have nominees. Missouri's Chase Daniel became the school's all-time leading passer with 405 yards and 4 touchdowns. 3 of those caught by Jeremy Maclin, who racked up 172 yards receiving in a 69-17 win over Nevada. Text vote to 51234 on your AT&T wireless phone to cast your vote.
Georgia Tech moving the football without their lead running back. Jonathan Dwyer shaken up on this drive. Boy, the pocket just collapsed. Wide open interception. Cody Grimm. And Virginia Tech takes the 3rd turnover away from the Yellow Jackets. Well, Cody's dad, Russ, had a wonderful NFL career, now an assistant coach in Arizona. Pretty happy dad right now.
Nesbitt had Embry Peoples, the true freshman. Peoples was running a route similar to the route that Roddy Jones scored on, but he couldn't get enough on the throw. And Cordero Thompson was the reason. Thompson had pressure up the gut. Nesbitt had to make the throw off his back foot. And Grimm, a nice job anticipating the throw and making the break.
Well, a scoreless 3rd quarter. See if Tyrod Taylor can do something about it. He's trying. Well, he got everybody. Oh, the fans were on their feet. They were all set for the big play, and Dyrell Roberts could not hang on. And Jonathan Dwyer now headed for the locker room. Hey, Todd, do you have anything there?
Guys, deep bruise. So far, all they've told me about Jonathan Dwyer is it is a deep bruise on his left side, ranging from a hip pointer up into the rib cage area. They had him on the sideline, putting him through some drills, and they just keep shaking their head. No, no, no. He puts his helmet down, and he takes off for the locker room. I will keep you posted if he comes back out.
Yeah, he landed really hard on that left hip and the left shoulder. What a tackle by Friday.
And Virginia Tech runs it with Kenny Lewis Jr. He has just not been able to get going in that tailback position. Maybe a loss of about a half a yard that time. Vance Walker, no surprise to call his name a few times for tackles.
And the Hokie faithful get a little restless with the play calling, but this is Hokie style football. This is Frank Beamer, Brian Steinspring. And the defense is playing well, and you're airtight on special teams. You don't have to score every time you have the football, especially when you get behind and down in distance.
3rd down and 11. Play just now being signaled in. Taylor's got a chance here for the Stakes. He's got it. First down, Virginia Tech. Cooper Taylor around the quarterback again for Georgia Tech, but not before a first down for Tyrod Taylor.
Well, there's no doubt this is a very talented front four, but Tyrod Taylor can wait and then have the patience. Let's go ahead and freeze it right about here. Now you're going to see a gap that's created here along the defensive front, and Taylor so dynamic with his feet, he's able to take it even with the good rush from the front four.
He's got 50 yards in 9 carries. And he's going to take time out here. There was confusion again between the sideline of Virginia Tech and the quarterback, so Tyrod Taylor plays it smart and safe.
You're watching ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Best Buy.
And tomorrow, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series continues at New Hampshire, presented by GoDaddy.com on ABC. Coverage begins with NASCAR Countdown at 1 p.m. Eastern. The chase, which begins in New Hampshire and ends in southern Florida. First and 10 following that great run by Taylor. He had to use one of Tech's 3 timeouts. And that is Darren Evans, who was a little more effective at the tailback spot. Picked up a couple of yards for Michael Johnson. Again, the preseason All-ACC performer. With the stop as we go back to the field, and Todd Harris.
Well, guys, we've talked a lot about Tyrod Taylor, but the man whose job he basically took is Sean Glennon. Now, here's the problem. He goes from not being the guy to not even being the guy that gives the guy the information. He doesn't have a clipboard, a headset. He's not signaling anything in. He doesn't have his helmet. So I think, David, you can speak more to this. Going from being the guy that everything goes through to not even having an opportunity to call the plays in, it's got to be tough.
Yeah, it's not a pleasant deal.
A super diving catch made that time. That looks like Dyrell Roberts, who missed an easier one earlier, but certainly more than made up for it. And it looks like, and it is, a first down for the Hokies.
Dyrell Roberts is a true freshman, a guy that really has shown that he can play and step up on the big stage coming right out of high school. Caught a big ball from Sean Glennon. We were just talking to Todd Harris about Sean Glennon. Caught a big ball, a deep ball against East Carolina, and he makes a nice play along the sidelines.
And that play went for 62 yards against the Pirates in that loss. Back on the ground with Evans. Broke a nice tackle there. It looked first that Kyle Jackson had him, but he squirted through that. And Vance Walker and Cooper Taylor helped make the stop that time. You don't get too many busted tackles through this Georgia Tech front group.
No, you don't. And Evans was involved in a competition with Kenny Lewis Jr. in the offseason. Kenny Lewis Jr. coming back from an injury very quickly. I think Darren Evans is starting to stake claim to the #1 spot at the tailback position.
This time Taylor in a play that looks like a Georgia Tech play. Gets it to Lewis in the open. Inside the 20-yard line. Morgan Burnett on the stop.
What a pitch.
Hey, reading Paul Johnson in his own game with that play, David.
That was an exceptional pitch, and Tyrod Taylor out of the shotgun. Watch, Michael Johnson's going to engage with him. And the ability to just deal the card off the bottom of the deck outside to Kenny Lewis. And the move just to free himself up to get outside and to option off big number 93.
There was a 16-yard pickup. Evans again, and it's loose. That could have been a loss of 4, and he gets back to the line of scrimmage. Vance Walker missed the first opportunity, and you see Kyle Jackson in there. And looks like Cedric Griffin and Morgan Burnett again for the Yellow Jackets as we're getting winding down this third quarter.
I really like the way that Brian Steinspring has called this game. I see Jonathan Dwyer coming back out, and looks like he's moving with a little more spring in his step.
We've been given the questionable word by the Georgia Tech folks at his return.
As Steinspring's calls continuing to test the middle even when he's not picking up big yardage, but it's setting up some big plays on the perimeter.
This is the 9th play of the drive, and this time Taylor ran into trouble. The form of Daryl Richard, the ACC Defensive Lineman of the Week, made that stop. That's going to set up third down, and that's going to set us our fourth quarter. A scoreless third quarter after a first half filled with wild momentum swings. Now Virginia Tech takes the ball and maybe command of this game if they score. Almost 70,000 people just finished with the hokey pokey, and that means it's time to start the fourth quarter here in Blacksburg. Virginia Tech at the Georgia Tech 14-yard line, facing third and long. Baylor has scrambled for one touchdown. This time he won't get to the marker, and the ball may be on the ground. No signal from the officials. Baylor gets it inside the 10, so it will be an easy field goal if that's the option for Frank Beamer, and it is. Dustin Keys comes on the field.
Frank Beamer, no question about it. He wanted a touchdown, but Brian Steinspring calling the plays and Frank Beamer with his approach, you want to make sure that you don't take any risks. And that was a fumble. That ball was alive, and it looked like the Hokies covered it. But Steinspring trying to be careful with the play call and make sure you go up 8 points here.
Dustin Keys, this will be if he makes it his longest of the year, and we have whistles.
The previous play is under review.
Aha. Now, I thought Darren Evans had recovered it for Virginia Tech. So we will find out what this is all about in mere moments.
You're watching ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Best Buy.
The officials looked at a fumble. It was recovered by Virginia Tech's Darren Evans, and that's why we had that delay. And Dustin Keys lines up again with Brent Bowden holding. 25 yards. No problem. The delay didn't bother him. And Virginia Tech goes up 17-9. Why 9? Because Virginia Tech blocked an extra point earlier in the first half. Well, everybody in college football is talking about this matchup, USC and Ohio State.
An early test for two of the best. A matchup with national title implications. Number 5 Ohio State heads west to take on number 1 USC. 8 Eastern tonight on ABC Saturday Night Football.
And we take a look at our ESPNU All-State standings also, David. Nice little matchup tonight out of the Coliseum.
Yeah, I'd call it a nice little matchup. Probably the best matchup on paper in college football this season. We got to find a nice, comfortable spot with some cold beverages. Sit down and enjoy Mr. Musburger and Mr. Herbstreit.
Herbie, by the way, earlier today picked his upset of the day as Georgia Tech over Virginia Tech. Now 17-9 is our mark, but we got a long way to go in the fourth quarter.
We certainly do. And getting back to that clash of the Titans tonight, I think if Ohio State is to win that game, it's got to be a low-scoring game. No Beanie Wells. They're going to have to pick up some turnovers, and the young kids for the Trojans really scare you. Ronald Johnson outside, blazing speed, and then, of course, Joe McKnight in the open field is a nightmare for defensive coordinators. Should be a great one.
We're looking at kickoff here. Melton, see what he can do from the goal line. And you might figure Virginia Tech covers kicks as well as they block them. He couldn't even get to the 20-yard line. Well, Josh Nesbitt has been at times, David, utterly spectacular, and then there have been those other times.
Well, in this offense, I think an area that needs to really be shored up if Georgia Tech's going to threaten for a division title is the handling of the football. He was very successful early running the football, but then the turnovers became a factor, and the turnover just before the half with a minute to go, Georgia Tech with the lead, and the Hokies cashed it in for a 5-point lead in the locker room.
Virginia Tech has made them pay by scoring twice on those turnovers now. Throwing wide open, the ball is dropped. Tell you what, not going to get too many more open than that. Greg Smith had the opportunity. I realize he was hit after the ball hit him in the hands, but he was open. Second down and 10.
Greg Smith has to make this play at this level. If you're going to be playing in the ACC in a BCS conference and you get a ball like this from your quarterback, you've got to make this catch. Nesbitt sits in, throws a perfect ball, and Smith is not a youngster. He was one of the leading wide receivers a year ago for the Yellow Jackets.
They go to the pitch with Cox, and he's had a couple of good runs. Great blocking downfield also for Georgia Tech. They get it all the way down to about the 45-yard line. Brent Warren finally made the stop. But that is a big first down, 36 yards for the sophomore, who's had his brothers play the fullback position. Now he's an A-back.
And how about Josh Nesbitt here, optioning off the end man on the line of scrimmage. It looks like the Yellow Jackets have found a former fullback to step in for Jonathan Dwyer, and that is the second big run for Cox, flashing some speed on the outside for a fullback.
Jonathan Dwyer is back in the game at that B-back position right behind the quarterback. Nesbitt keeps it, and he'll advance it to the 40-yard line. Brent Warren again on the stop for the Hokies.
I think Paul Johnson is finding a nice changeup. Yeah, through the injury and a couple plays that Jonathan Dwyer missed at the B-back position, we've seen that Cox can come in and give this offense a different look, a physical aspect to the running game, and he also has enough nimbleness with his feet to step outside for Paul Johnson.
Only 8 coaches left. Last year that number was 14 who call their own plays. Goes again to Cox, another first down. And the thing is, Cox is getting the ball, David, and there's nobody near him when he gets the ball. He's got space as soon as he gets the football.
Well, that's what a Paul Johnson offense does to you. This is a defense that he talked about, Dave. He said, hey, there's more speed and more talent on this defense than any defense we'll see this year. But they continue to test you in different ways, and then they find answers to counter what you're taking away.
So Lucas Cox has emerged as a major player on this Yellow Jacket drive. Emory Peoples gets an opportunity to carry the ball for the first time today. He gets it inside the 30 to the 28, and again, and I'm not making this up, Brent Warren makes another stop. Another guy with NFL connections in his family. His father, of course, was Don Warren, a great tight end for the Joe Gibbs Redskins teams.
Now, this isn't Warren's first taste of new action. He had 4 starts a year ago, and looking at Peoples at the A-back position, the true freshman, he really fits that mold for Paul Johnson.
Got a dozen tackles now for Brent Warren. Also, Cam Chandler was around that play. Nesbitt with a decision to go to Roddy Jones, and he is dumped by Cam Chandler at about the 20-yard line, but that could be and is a first down for the Yellow Jackets. Boy, they have really handled the little bit of adversity very nicely here.
Well, they've also handled the pitches, the tougher pitches, well. They've had ball security problems and fumble problems on some of the more simple aspects, the handoffs inside, but I've really enjoyed watching Nesbitt and also his counterpart, Tyrod Taylor, the way they have gotten outside and pitched the ball outside, set up their backs in open spaces.
Nesbitt hauled down, no chance. Nikos Brown from his defensive end position. Talked about earlier how the defensive ends are the guys who were keying on the quarterback, and they pinched in that time and lost about a foot or two. Brings up second and a little more than 10 as Warren comes out of the game hobbling just a little bit.
Well, this is a defensive end that's tracking Nesbitt down. And Nikos Brown, now granted, nobody touched him, nobody laid a hand on him, he came scot-free, but how about a big defensive end closing at about 270 pounds?
We go to Cox again. Hey, this has worked twice. Not nearly as effective, but he do get some positive yards. That time again, Cam Chandler And Pernell Sturdivant around the play for Virginia Tech. Sets up one of those uncomfortable 3rd down and longs for Paul Johnson's team.
This is where Paul Johnson really earns his money. In 3rd and long situations with an offense that's learning the ropes. To be a little bit more comfortable for the boys at Navy a year ago. Be interesting to see if Paul Johnson chooses to pick up the 1st down with Nesbitt's arm, or does he go right back to the option?
Goes to the arm, or does he? Nesbitt's got room here. 1st down and a touchdown. Well, he got the corner, and we could see it from up here, David, that the field just opened up to his right side, and Georgia Tech now do they go for 2 with 9:28 to go or go for 1?
Now watch what he does to Justin Young once he breaks contain on the right side. You're going to see big number 96 right here, and this is like a cat playing with a mouse. I mean, he just stalled on the way outside, waited, let Young make his move, and just stepped out of the tackle and inside the pylon. What a play.
I don't see Scott Blair out there, so it looks like they're going to go for the tie here.
Yeah, I think this is the right call. You don't necessarily have to go here, but with 9 minutes to go, it certainly isn't the wrong decision.
Well, going to back him up 5. Ford Howard jump.
And now you kick the extra point.
Prior to the snap, false start. Offense, number 71. 5-yard penalty. We'll repeat the try.
And well, I'm not sure I go for 2 here. I think I send my place kicker on the field. Plenty of time, more than 9 minutes to go. And this is why they have to go for 2 here. Beamer ball. I don't like this decision at all, Dave.
All right, I have to agree with you. You've got 9.5 minutes to go. Why not go for the 1 unless you just don't have the confidence in your special teams?
They might try to draw him off sides, but I don't think so.
We're tied. Lucas Cox.
You talk about the nerve of a burglar. And the confidence by Paul Johnson after they get marched back 5 yards to still go for 2 points. I don't know many coaches in the country that wouldn't send the extra point team on the field. The confidence in number 9. We're tied.
Touch the Hokie Stone. The players do it coming out of the tunnel. Well, there's Hokie Stones all over this campus. They have their own quarry here at Virginia Tech, David, as you know.
I'm not sure you were aware. That's a native limestone.
It is a native limestone. You are correct, sir. 9:28 left. 9-play, 81-yard drive, an 18-yard Nesbitt run. Capped it off in 4.5 minutes, and Lucas Cox received the 2-point conversion. That's why we're tied. And Virginia Tech will take over at the 20-yard line. We go to New York and Matt Weiner. So Virginia Tech now with 9:28 to go. We're tied up at 17, and it's been a battle of the running quarterbacks. First deep shot taken by Virginia Tech today, and it's overthrown. Well, I'll tell you what, David, this has been highly entertaining. Virginia Tech has not been 1-2 since 1995. By the way, they finished that year 10-2. Georgia Tech was asked to go to Boston College and play one team that was in the ACC championship game. They did okay. They won. Now look at them here.
This would be huge to get 2 victories on the road against programs like a BC and a Virginia Tech. This would really catapult Georgia Tech as the favorite in the division. And I've been very impressed with Paul Johnson and how quickly he has been able to implement this offense.
And Josh Nesbitt has been at times utterly spectacular in that quarterback position. And Georgia Tech takes a timeout. 2nd down and 10 situation. Nesbitt today, we talked about him. 209 total yards, 144 rushing, and 63 passing. So we'll see what the coaches are scheming up when we return.
You're watching ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Best Buy.
So Georgia Tech called timeout on defense. Frank Beamer trying to get his offense going with Tyrod Taylor as the quarterback. He's had a solid game, the sophomore from Hampton, Virginia, an area that has produced some amazing athletes at that position. He might be one of them. Picked up 3 there. Well, time, David, for our Pacific Life game summary. Let's take everybody through what they may have missed so far. In Blacksburg, beautiful day. Very warm and humid at the start of the day, but you see now beautiful light settling in the field in complete shadow. Josh Nesbitt only attempted 5 passes, but has completed 3. He has 1 rushing touchdown and 1 throwing touchdown. Tyrod Taylor, in his first start this season, replacing Sean Glennon, who's been benched. Good on the ground and conservative in the air. That's one thing. We've seen 1 deep shot that started the series for the Hokies. Otherwise, they've kept Taylor with a very medium and even short pass.
I've been struck by the way that both offenses have transitioned from the running threat as they give Vance Walker big defensive tackle out of South Carolina, hand off the field. But the way the quarterbacks were really having success running the ball early in the game, and now the game has transitioned to some big plays outside from the pitchmen and also some impressive throws down the field, especially by Josh Nesbitt, Georgia Tech quarterback.
So a 3rd and long here for the Hokies.
It's a big question mark in these kinds of offenses. Is can a Tyrod Taylor, can a Josh Nesbitt threaten the field with their arm when they need to?
Georgia Tech has held Virginia Tech to under 200 total yards. 197. Taylor, he's made the commitment, and he'll get knocked out of bounds, and there's the flag. It looked to me like Burnett was okay down low, but they may have flagged Cooper Taylor for the hit around the shoulders.
Well, this is a huge penalty against Taylor out of bounds.
Personal foul. Unnecessary roughness by helmet contact against the defense. 15 yards. Automatic first down.
I don't like that call at all. Now, let's see if he gets to the sideline in time. I don't think he did. I think Tyrod Taylor is fair game. I don't think he even had a foot out of bounds.
Well, they're calling helmet to helmet. They're saying that Cooper Taylor hit him with the crown of his helmet in the ear hole of Tyrod Taylor.
Wow. I know that's an emphasis. That was a big emphasis with the Rules Committee in the offseason, but it looked like a nice clean lick to me by Taylor.
So the first down opportunity, and there goes Darren Evans. I'll tell you what, every time the Yellow Jackets have had a mistake go against them, either a turnover or that big penalty, Virginia Tech has made them pay for it. 23-yard gain.
And with good offenses, you give them extra chances, and the Hokies would have been punting. And look at the work up front by the offensive line, jersey on jersey. It's going to make Brian Steinspring proud. The way his offense executed, and the late hit really looms large.
Evans not the starting tailback today. It was Kenny Lewis Jr., but he has emerged as the main man. They go to Boone. Here's a little double reverse. The ball on the ground picked up by Taylor. And he'll try to make something out of this and just be very... Oh, no! They're going to flag that. They're going to flag Michael Johnson for pushing out of bounds.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure they're going to hit 93. Their flag's coming in late. They may have had their eyes trained on another confrontation. It didn't look like Michael Johnson just rode Taylor out of bounds.
Personal foul. Grasping the face mask. 93 defense.
Oh, we got a piece of the face mask.
First down.
Well, this play was a Greg Boone handoff to Macho Harris, and that's a good call by the official.
That is a good call. There's no longer a 5-yard face mask. That's another rule change in the offseason. But there's no longer 5-yarders, and if you hold on long enough to turn the head, it's a 15-yarder every time. And Michael Johnson really frustrated looking at the rule change. Incidental contact, if you get up into the face mask with your hand, Dave, and you disengage quickly and you don't turn the head, they don't drop the flag. 2 big penalties.
And you'd figure a young team would make mistakes, but that was the senior who grabbed the face mask as Evans was tackled inside the 20-yard line to about the 19. Kyle Jackson has been in a lot of plays for the Yellow Jacket defense. We head to New York and Matt Weiner. Fumbles been a problem for Georgia Tech here. They've lost a couple and committed an interception. Helmets on the ground. Taylor on the ground. He moves the chains. Going to see third and about 2.5.
I tell you what, Virginia Tech's best play with Tyrod Taylor in the lineup for Frank Beamer. They took the red shirt off his back, but you know, the best play is when he gets the snap and then he's just able to pick and choose with creases up along the offensive front. And he just waits and sees how the defensive front plays it. He picks a gap and he exploits it. And a lot of this is getting done with Georgia Tech playing pretty darn solid up front with their front seven.
Virginia Tech is down to 1 timeout after that call made from the sideline by Frank Beamer. As Virginia Tech moves closer, can they take the lead? Final 6:36. This is the 7th play of this drive coming up. 67 yards, 30 of those yards on personal foul penalties against the Yellow Jackets. Evans, the tailback. It's a great block and a first down. Huge block by Sergio Render. Got him to the outside and Morgan Burnett on the stop.
Now, Sergio Render showing some versatility, ability to move. Evans getting some great work up front. Watch the right guard, Sergio Render, number 70. He's had himself a day, and look at the size. Now, Sergio Render goes 6'3", 308, and can move. Not quite like a ballerina, but very light on his feet.
They go to Evans. And a saving tackle by Cooper Taylor. But down to the 5, and the clock running inside of 6 minutes. Evans now with 92 yards.
Evans really starting to get rhythm, and as an offensive coordinator and a head coach, when you get an offensive line in rhythm and a tailback feeling it the way that Evans is feeling it, you feed him. You keep giving him carries.
They do. All he's feeling this time is the Georgia Tech defense. No gain. Maybe they're going to give him the 4-yard line. Going to set up a very interesting 3rd down and 4, David. And you've got to be thinking that Virginia Tech is thinking, let's have Taylor take this one.
Now, this is a very critical play, obviously, because in this situation, you don't want to come away with 3 points if you can help it. And I think you're right on, Dave. They're going to feature Tyrod Taylor here. You know, a run-pass option ideally, but would not be surprised to see Taylor once again tuck it.
And they're going to use their last timeout. They ran in some different personnel. They're out of them. There was a shuffle of bodies, 3 in, 3 out. They're obviously not comfortable with what they have out there. Well, ABC is bringing the game show to your house. Literally, it's your life and chance to win big. But the question is, how well do you know your own family? Opportunity Knocks series premiere is coming up Tuesday, September 23 on ABC. With David Norrie and Todd Harris, I'm Dave Lamont. 4:44 remaining. 3rd and goal on the 4-yard line for Virginia Tech, now having burned all of their timeouts. And, you know, when we look back on this game, regardless of what happens, this drive was 3rd down and going nowhere until that.
Well, and they had to call it. When you get that look, you know, Taylor got up, helmet on helmet, and then the face mask, not a malicious face mask. And you know, I don't think Cooper Taylor was trying to deliver a blow there with the crown of his helmet. It was an area of emphasis in the offseason, but it was a major catalyst in keeping this drive alive.
3rd and goal from the 4.
And you think, or you'd have to think, Georgia Tech really concentrating on quarterback draw here.
Georgia Tech shut off the middle, and the pass is incomplete, intended for Greg Boone. I watched the middle of the line that time, and there was nowhere for Taylor to go up the middle.
And you had to figure that Womack, Coach Womack, the defensive coordinator for Georgia Tech, was playing quarterback draw first, and it really looked like Tyrod Taylor had his man in the end zone.
Dustin Key's on. He is 1 for 1 today. He had a short field goal in this quarter. This is even shorter, 21 yards. First one he's made was 25. And the Hokies have recaptured the lead with 4:37 remaining. So the 30 bonus yards, and that one penalty particularly happening on 3rd down, cost Georgia Tech 3 points. And I'm not sure what Paul Johnson's complaint with the side judge is, but he's extremely unhappy with the side judge and the umpire.
I think he's talking about both of the 15-yarders, and when he looks at the tape, I think he's going to agree that both of them had to be called.
Well, Tyrod Taylor lost his red shirt a couple of weeks ago, took the job from Sean Glennon, and has been at times spectacular for the Hokies.
Well, he has been effortless in the way that he has stepped out of tackles. When he gets outside, he is absolutely scary, and he's got that type of body lean and the strength in the lower body that really reminds you of Michael Vick. Maybe not quite as dynamic and dangerous as at this point as a Michael Vick. Michael Vick was so good even as a freshman, and he might not threaten the field in terms of the vertical throws like Michael Vick could, but a lot of the same qualities and the same look to him once he breaks the pocket.
11 plays, 76-yard drive, and 4:51 for Keys, capped it off with a field goal. And Georgia Tech will take the touchback and start at the 20 as we'll go to New York in the studio and Matt.
All right, Dave, SportsCenter right now, presented by Vizio. This is Chris Beanie Wells on his way to the stadium in Los Angeles for tonight's tilt between Ohio State and USC. Jim Tressel said last night Wells will not play against the Trojans because of the toe injury he suffered 2 weeks ago. Of course, you'll see the game at 8 Eastern time on ABC.
Well, Dave, I'm not sure whether he's going to play tonight, but he sure looked pretty good getting off the bus.
He should at least limp a little bit, shouldn't he? Nesbitt makes a solid hit, but gets 4.
I like the suit and the shirt and tie combination. He travels well.
Yeah, he does. Well, I would think the Buckeyes want to represent well on the road. Josh Nesbitt approaching 150 rush yards. And you wonder, with his B-back, Jonathan Dwyer, having been shaken up and spent a little time out of the game, Dwyer hasn't carried the ball since he came back. How much of the load will Nesbitt carry? They'll pitch it off to Jones, and Jones gets driven to the turf, but that looks to be a first down.
And when Georgia Tech has gone to the triple option, we've seen 19 keeps by Nesbitt, and I think that really shows you that Bud Foster, the defensive coordinator, when you look at the distribution there, he has made sure that Jonathan Dwyer was not the main factor, the main threat for Georgia Tech, and they've done a great job of bottling up the B-back.
This combination worked well on the last drive, and you can see the fullback in Cox. They may call him an A-back, but he's built like a fullback. He played that position last year for the Yellow Jackets, a redshirt sophomore, picked up a couple. Well, it's not out of the realm of possibility to believe that Georgia Tech can come back in a tough place. They did so in Chestnut Hill with a fourth quarter comeback, and they're trying to do it here in an even louder environment in Blacksburg. Second and long, 8 yards to go. As First carry for Dwyer since he came back into the game after suffering a bruised lower back. Didn't get a whole lot. Cam Chandler was there to make sure that play gained maybe just a couple. Stops the clock, though, just inside 3 minutes. We get down to the sidelines. Todd, how is Jonathan Dwyer?
Dave, the official word was a bruised hip, and you're exactly right. That's the first time he's touched the ball since going out of the game at the end of the third quarter. Now, in that last drive, they were successful. They used him as a decoy, but at this point, it looks like Virginia Tech has figured out there's something not right with him. They have keyed on him, but now it looks like they're shutting down the other options, Dave.
And on that first touch, they went right back to the play that Dwyer scored on. The deciding touchdown a week ago against Boston College. Virginia Tech had it shut down outside.
Where do they go now with it? They go deep. And open is Jones, and it just went in. Fingertips and out of them, just a little bit overthrown. And Roddy Jones was open.
Yeah, he was wide open down the center of the field, and he got behind Chancellor, the free safety. I think this was a combination of Nesbitt putting a little bit too much on it, and I'm not sure that Jones quite kept his deep speed. That was an opportunity to take the lead.
And at 4th and 7 with 2:24 to go, Georgia Tech is going for it from their own 34-yard line.
Yeah, I don't think you need to do this with 2 timeouts. This is really unusual at this spot on the field, especially with 2 timeouts.
Well, Paul Johnson was almost a third of the way onto the field. He wants to take his second timeout.
30-second timeout.
Well, now that he called the second timeout, I think he's eliminated his option to send the punt team onto the field. You know, you call the second timeout. Now all of a sudden you don't have the ability to save the 35 or 40 seconds with that timeout that you just burned.
Well, he was ripping into his offensive line there.
Well, in that situation, maybe he's scared that Tyrod Taylor and Virginia Tech are going to pick up the first down, but you can afford to punt it away there and have plenty of time to come back down the field if you stop Virginia Tech on downs.
Well, will we have this kind of excitement tonight in Southern California? We all pretty much think we will. Jim Tressel's Ohio State Buckeyes and Pete Carroll's USC Trojans. Saturday Night Football presented by Southwest Airlines tonight at 8 Eastern on ABC. Tonight's game is also available on ESPN Radio.
And what you do here by burning the timeout and going for it on 4th down is you put the game on this play.
Nesbitt. Unbelievable that he was still alive and brought down from behind of the Hokies takeover. That was Sturdivant on the stop. And as Nesbitt limps off a little bit, David, he hesitated between do I want to throw it or do I want to take off, and that hesitation I think cost him.
Well, he bought some time, but he didn't find a Georgia Tech receiver down the field. He didn't like what he saw. He saved the throw there, and that gave the opportunity for a very fast defense, a defense that closes well, to take him down to the turf. Sturdivant making the play.
And they'll give it to Darren Evans. Remember, Georgia Tech has just 1 timeout left.
This defensive front, Paul Johnson had the ability to punt it away. I think, you know, the way that his defense has been playing, that he should have had some more confidence potentially in punting the ball away. And Bud Foster, excited, animated. How many times have we seen that picture on the sideline? And he has put together a great defensive game plan to shut down the spread option attack of Georgia Tech.
And there go all the timeouts in this game with 2:01 to go. And here's where the timing rules come into effect a little bit here too, David. The new rules about the play clock being set certainly favor where Virginia Tech is right now.
Well, and now on 2nd and 3rd down, you don't have timeouts to stop the clock, so you think 2 chunks of 40 seconds, there's only going to be 20 seconds left in the game. Then you figure in the time to run each play. If you had saved that second timeout, then you would have had close to a minute left if you stopped Virginia Tech on downs. And you know, Georgia Tech picks up the first down for Paul Johnson there, then the risk was worth it.
But Paul Johnson seems to be working the officials as if he were a basketball coach. Yeah, a lot to say to him.
I just didn't like the position on the field, the 34-yard line, but you know, Paul Johnson did a nice job in going for 2 and rolling the dice, and I think it was a case of Josh Nesbitt as well, just not being able to find somebody down the field.
So 1 first down will certainly do it here for the Hokies. Not on this play. What about a solid hit by Tony Clark, number 7 for the Yellow Jackets. That's going to lose yardage, but then Clark continues to be the ally for Frank Beamer's team.
And you want to run plays if you're Virginia Tech that takes some time. You'd like to take 5, 6, maybe even 7 seconds off the clock. And of course, Tyrod Taylor is going to step into the huddle on each one of these plays and look his ball carrier in the eyes and say, make sure you cover it with both arms. Really, the only way that Georgia Tech can win is if they fumble.
We tried to call a timeout, and he doesn't have one. Now, that's a flag. Tyrod Taylor turned.
Virginia Tech had no timeout. Therefore, it's a dead ball, delay a game against the offense.
Well, Paul Johnson, of course, will take those 5 yards just in case.
Now, the 5 yards, you don't want to give up 5 yards because if something bad happens, if you have to line up for a punt, ball's on the turf, you don't want Georgia Tech any closer to the goal line the other way. But the 5 yards really doesn't hurt you in terms of your priority, and that is working on the clock.
And the play clock is underway, but not the game clock. Here's that draw. It's been effective for Taylor. Can he get the first down? No. Boy, I tell you what, Cooper Taylor slowed him down and set him up for the second hit.
Well, now if you're Frank Beamer, you have to decide here what you want to do, and I think he'll probably run a play. You don't want to risk getting a punt blocked going the other way. He's going to run a play from scrimmage, and he might go ahead and take another 5-yard penalty here, so he's not scrambled. He'll treat this as a bit of a timeout, I think.
Well, remember what happened in the East Carolina game. It was a game that Virginia Tech had at times in command, and a block punt for a touchdown ruined that one for them.
Now, this is interesting because this gives Georgia Tech a bit of a chance, and I think they are going to punt here. They only pick up a few yards being at the 30-yard line already.
We'll get rid of it quickly. Oh, did he do an angle? Oh, man. Brent Bowden.
And did Frank Beamer show some confidence in his punt unit there?
Yep.
I mean, you get a bad snap. You get Georgia Tech penetrating. We all remember what happened late in the East Carolina game 2 weeks ago. I mean, that was an interesting decision, because if you run a play from scrimmage and keep the ball in Tyrod Taylor's hands, Georgia Tech has to go an awfully long ways. What a punt.
Yellow Jackets do not have any timeouts. And there's a couple of flags coming in right away.
Prior to the snap, illegal substitutions, breaking the huddle with 12 players on the offense. Half the distance, remains first down.
Well, they only have 97.5 yards to go to take the lead.
I mean, how about Frank Beamer, especially with the disaster that took place late in the opener against East Carolina? They get a punt block, and he shows the confidence to send his punt team out in that situation. Wow.
And can he get out of bounds? I don't think he did. Yes, the officials will stop him as being out of bounds. 16 seconds ago, Nesbitt is just spent, David. He is limped off the field after the last series. He's given everything he has.
Nesbitt has been a warrior, and I think he really bodes well for this offense. And we did a game a couple weeks ago up at Michigan, and Rich Rodriguez, people were talking about how he didn't have a quarterback that fit his system, and Nesbitt fits this system better than he fit the system a year ago.
149 yards on the ground for him today. Open. That's Melton. Out to the 33 before he is popped down.
And what Georgia Tech is going to need to do here is they're going to have to get a pass play down the field for about 30 yards and get it out of bounds. They might just kill the clock here, but on the next play, that's... And now you only have a chance to go over the top. So you got to try to score a touchdown. You can't get the ball out of bounds. Only 4 seconds. If they could have got up to the line of scrimmage a little quicker, they could have tried to hit a ball along the sidelines and set up a long field goal try. Now it's a Hail Mary over the top.
They respot the ball at the 33-yard line, 67 yards away. And Nesbitt will find an open receiver. And there's the ball game. A sure tackle ends it by Macho Harris, and Virginia Tech escapes and avoids going 1-2 for the first time since 1995. 20-17 is the final score. Our Chevrolet players of the game, Tyrod Taylor and Josh Nesbitt. In recognition of their efforts, Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to each university's general scholarship fund. A warm greeting. Frank Beamer to Paul Johnson. Heck of a football game. And what have we learned about Georgia Tech today, David?
I think we've learned that Josh Nesbitt is a guy that's going to be able to operate for 3 years in this offense, and he's going to be very dynamic.
And we've known that Frank Beamer knows how to win. He is with Todd Harris.
Coach, you made the difficult decision earlier this week to go with Tyrod Taylor over Sean Glennon. What did he show you tonight that shows that you made the right decision?
Well, you know, he made some plays. He's athletic, and his throwing is getting much better, and we got to continue to develop that. We just got too many young receivers, but we got to continue to develop that passing game, and then I think we got something going.
North Carolina looked very good in their win over Rutgers. You have them next. What will Tyrod Taylor and your team be able to propose problems for them?
You know, I tell you, every week's just a new adventure for us right now. And, you know, the thing we said, we got to get better. We got all these young kids, and we just got to get a little bit better each week. And I thought we took a step forward. This is a good football team. They do some stuff that messes with you.
You talk about the youth of this team. What did they show you tonight that showed you that they're ready to go all the way?
I thought we hung in there. I just thought we hung in there and battled, and field goal guy came through, and, you know, this was work tonight now. This, you know, they say have fun, but this was work.
Classic Beamer ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Dave?
Tom, once again, our final score, Virginia Tech 20 and Georgia Tech 17. For David Norrie and Todd Harris and our entire crew, and they did a great job. Thank you all very much. I'm Dave Lamont saying so long from Blacksburg. Now we're going to send you back to the studio.